Welcome to Satsang. It's always so beautiful to be together in this space of diving in together into truth, and to be joined by our global family, connecting in through YouTube, through Facebook, through so many different channels. It's such a gift and a blessing to be able to gather both in person and be together energetically and see and feel each other. And also such a blessing to be able to connect with all of those who aren't able to actually be with us physically. So it's a beautiful connection of all of the worlds. We usually begin with a question that comes to us from our online audience in comments online, because it helps us make them know that they are part of the family. So we always begin, or usually, with a question that's come in advance. And then we open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. What do you think are the most important qualities in a friend or a romantic partner? I think the most important qualities to look for in someone we're going to spend our lives with, whether on a friendship basis or whether on a romantic basis. Number one is, what is that person's life goal? You know, sometimes we make decisions based just on religion. Oh, I'm this religion, that person's the same religion, therefore it will be a good match. The dilemma with that is that religion does not necessarily determine really how we're living our lives. There's a lot of people for whom religion is just ritual, whereas there's a lot of people for whom it's the way in to that truth of who we are. It's the way toward moksha, freedom, liberation, enlightenment. And so rather than asking only about religion, I would be much more concerned with, what is someone's actual goal of their life? Because if someone's goal of their life is just to make a lot of money or get really successful, and your goal is to live a really deep spiritual life, then even though you might be of the same religion, I don't think that would necessarily be a very smooth marriage, or even a smooth friendship. Because we only get 24 hours in a day. We have to sleep, some of them. Science tells us, 6 to 8. Some sleep more, some sleep less, but some percentage of our day has to go in sleeping. Some in bathing, some in eating. Then, of course, most people have to get a job, make some money. So there's a very limited amount of free time that we have to dedicate to whatever we want. And if you've got completely opposite ideas of the goal of life, then it's going to bring about conflict. So I would say the number one quality that I would look for in a friend or a romantic partner would be, what is the goal of their life? And does it match the goal of your life? Because even if someone says, well, I'm not very religious, let's say, but the goal of my life is to serve the world, to use every minute, every moment that I have in service, well, even if they don't necessarily do the same rituals you do or pray in the same way you do, that life goal is a life goal that is right in line with actually our teachings of Dharma. So that would be my first quality. The second quality I think that would be most important is someone who is very comfortable with you growing and blossoming and expanding and changing. See, when people have agendas that we be a certain way, stay a certain way, act a certain way, then all of our growth and transformation becomes a threat to them. So I would look for someone who was very open and even excited by the idea of change and growth and transformation, their own as well as yours, someone who wasn't threatened by that. Someone who themselves was looking to grow and transform, and who wanted you to grow and transform. Someone who trusts your own inner knowing much more than they trust their own cultural or societal norms that say you must do X, Y, and Z. Because we've all got these kind of norms from society that say this is how we're supposed to live and this is what we're supposed to do. And it's the kind of stuff, that we're supposed to do to make the neighbors jealous or so that the neighbors don't speak badly about us. It doesn't really have anything to do with anyone's dharma or anyone's life calling. And so I would want someone who was much more concerned with your own inner voice, your own inner wisdom, than what the neighbors were going to think, or what his or her parents were going to think about it, what the relatives would say. I would want someone who was primarily concerned with me listening to my own inner voice, finding it and listening to it. Even if it wasn't something that was going to make the neighbors jealous. Even if it was something the neighbors might, God forbid, not actually think was great. But that's okay. Nobody ever, attained moksha because they kept their neighbors happy. Right? At the end of the day, whatever religion you may be or whatever you may conceive of as that kind of, we've left the body, we're now in that next state. And whether you think about it in a more Judeo-Christian tradition of, a more Christian way of heaven or hell. Whether you think about it in terms of rebirth, reincarnation, our karma, whatever way you think about it, there's no way in which what we're being asked after our life is, you never made the neighbors uncomfortable, did you? The neighbors approved of everything you did, right? They were jealous a lot, right? Doesn't matter. So I would want someone who really was connected to what matters for themselves and also for me. The last thing I would want in a relationship is someone saying, yeah, I know your heart is telling you that, but oh my God, what are the neighbors going to say? Or what are my parents going to say? Or what are my relatives going to say? What's society going to say? I would want someone who was ready to be my ally in following what my heart said. And then lastly, there's so much I could spend all night on just that list, but I'd say lastly for now, I would want someone deeply committed to truth. There's a tendency in this culture being Indian culture, to be more concerned with the convenience of the moment than with actual truth. What is it that's going to go over easily in the moment? What can I say that's going to make people kind of just comfy in the moment? rather than the ultimate truth. And on the one hand, you don't want ultimate truth at all costs. Sometimes it's very damaging. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, tapas of speech is that which is true, but also that which is kind and beneficial. So it has to be true. But it doesn't mean that if it's true but neither kind nor beneficial, we speak it. But it also means that just because it's beneficial but not true doesn't mean we should be speaking it. And I mention this because what I've seen, I've got a background in psychology, and what I've seen in psychology and also in spirituality is what we call in kind of a legal jargon, the slippery slope. We begin somewhere, we take one step, and then we kind of slide. And someone who thinks it's okay, for example, you're supposed to meet people for dinner or somewhere. You're running late, the phone rings. You pick it up and you tell them, ki haan, hum rasta pe hain. Aap rasta pe nahi, aap gard pe hain. Nikalne ke liye tayari kar rahe hain. But you've said, hum rasta pe hain. Now you think, well, it's better, it'll keep them happy, kam se kam wo chintit. Right? They won't worry, they won't be stressed. But that would worry me. And it would worry me because of this slippery slope thing. Somebody who thinks it's okay to lie to our friends about the fact that we're on the way, just because he or she doesn't want to face their disappointment when they say, what? You haven't left the house? My God, you're going to be late. That would worry me in terms of quality of a deep relationship. Because what it means is that they would be prepared to tell me things that weren't true, just to avoid difficult situations or difficult conversations, just because they thought it was easier in the moment. And in any deep relationship, I would never want someone who just was looking to kind of appease me. But I would want someone who knew she wants the truth, whatever it may be. And then we'll deal with it. You haven't left home yet? Okay. Let's adjust our plans. But at least let's all be on one page of truth. So that little seemingly harmless habit of white lies would actually be a really big red flag for me on a personal level. So those would be my qualities that I would really pay attention to when choosing someone you're going to have a deep relationship with, and one that you intend to last at least this time, if not, as they say, 7 lifetimes. Does anyone here have any questions?
I have.
Yes, one here and then one here.
May I ask?
Yes, of course.
Related to what you said just now, that we should not lie to our loved ones and we should always follow the path of truth. Actually, my name means truth. So I'm asking that why do we say to our child or our wife that no, you are fine, even if you are suffering, even if we know that they are suffering from a chronic disease, a child has fallen and has cut, but he's saying kuch nahi hua, mat daro, sab theek ho jayega.
It's a great question. So when you're dealing with things like injuries or illness, things of the physical body, especially with our children, as you say, they fall, you say, kuch nahi hua, don't worry, it's nothing. Well, the way that we think about things, our mental state, actually impacts our physical state a lot. If I fall and I see blood, there's an automatic stress response. Oh my God, blood. Now, in that stress actually diminishes our body's capacity for healing. It lowers our immunity, and it diminishes our capacity for healing. It makes us not feel the pain so much. It's one of the things adrenaline does. But it also keeps the body from actually fighting off infection because it's very simple. The stress response was supposed to last only a very short period of time. It's what we call the fight or flight nervous system response. It was supposed to last half an hour. A tiger's coming, an elephant's coming. Somebody's got a bow and arrow on you and your family and your village. Just long enough for you to either fight them off or run away. Now, in that sympathetic nervous system response, all of our blood in our body, all of what you can think of as the ojas or the pran, the shakti of our body, goes to the extremities, goes to our arms and our legs so that we can run or we can fight. It's that energy that allows 100-pound mothers to lift a car off of their child. You think, my God, kaise kiya usne? But she did it. This is the kripa of adrenaline. They rush all of that shakti of the body. But what happens? Our digestion stops. Immune system stops. Reproduction stops. It's why women who are under a lot of stress end up with messed up menstrual cycles, end up with fertility problems, not just women, but men. It's why you end up, people who are under a lot of stress get sick a lot. The immune system stops working. It's why the digestion gets bad, why you get ulcers and stomach pain when you're stressed. It's the body's way of taking a finite amount of energy and saying, right now, don't worry about menstruation. Right now, don't worry about digesting your lunch. Right now, you've got to be able to run or fight. We're going to take all that energy. Now, that's fine for half an hour. The dilemma is in a longer term situation, which is what's happening in our lives these days, but that's a different issue. In terms of why we say to people, it's okay, it's okay. When that child calms down and their stress response calms, their body's ability to heal improves and increases. As long as the child is screaming his or her head off, freaking out, their healing capacity is actually thwarted. So we say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Now, similarly with illnesses, it's okay, it's okay. The question of course, because when we're sick, we need a very robust immune system. If you're sick and you're stressed about being sick, this is what we saw this past almost 2 years with COVID. So people were sick with COVID, of course. But then there was a whole side-by-side pandemic of people who were so stressed about getting COVID that they actually became much more susceptible to COVID. Not everyone who was exposed to COVID got it. Could put one person with COVID, right? We hear these stories. There was a wedding, 100 people wedding. One person had it. 20 people got sick. Well, 80 people didn't get sick. So not everybody who gets exposed got sick. Now, I'm not saying by any means that those who got sick were those who were stressed in a broad scale, but what we do know is that the more stressed you are, the more impaired your immune function is. So if I walked into that wedding, panicked, oh my God, I might get COVID, oh my God, I've literally just increased my likelihood of getting sick. And so this is where we, as an ashram, we're spending so much time telling people Mask, social distance, stay home, be careful. But meditate. Do yoga. Come to satsang, watch it online. Because the last thing you want to be is stressed out and diminishing your own immune system. Now, the only other piece that I would mention about that is it becomes a bit of a tricky situation when you're dealing with someone who's got something that isn't going to get better. When you've got a terminal illness. And then, of course, the question becomes, do we tell them or do we not? And I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think it really depends on who the person is, what their personality is, how old they are, how they would feel to know. Is there anything that they could do, should do, would like to do? So, for example, if someone is in a hospital bed and the doctors say they're never going to get out of this hospital bed, they're going to die, I'm not necessarily sure that it serves any purpose to tell them that. You never know, there's always miracles they could pull through. And if you did tell them, it's not going to change their situation at all, other than to make them more depressed. But if someone were, for example, just diagnosed with something, but they weren't suffering yet, but they were given a diagnosis that said, you've got 6 months, a year to live, I would tell that person. Because it seems to me that that would be very important, to give that person the opportunity to decide, okay, science has said, medicine has said, this is how much time I've got left. Let me decide how I want to spend it. Some may decide they're going to spend it in treatment, going here and there, doing everything they can to get better. Some may say, you know what? This must be God's will. I'm going to spend a year traveling all over the world, or I'm going to start that NGO I've always been meaning to. While I'm alive, I'm going to take my money, do something good for the world. Somebody may say, I'm going to finally tell all those people I love that I love them. I'm going to fix all of the fights that I've got going in my life. Whatever it may be, but I think it's important. I think people deserve that if they have the capacity to make a decision that's different. But if they're in a hospital bed either way, I don't see the point that would serve. Yeah. And then someone over here had a question. Yes. They're just getting the mic to you. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. So first of all, this is the first time that I'm seeing, and trust me, it's a delight to see you, and the way you have delivered the message, I'm greatly touched by it, and I understand that the way you you answered a question, and in that question you partly answered one of the question that I had. That what I understand from your stand is you do not believe that the religion you choose would be the way to moksha, salvation.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
Religion absolutely can be the way to moksha. Absolutely. It's just, you could attain moksha without necessarily subscribing to an organized religion.
Yeah. Right. So, doesn't matter which religion you belong to, as long as your goal is the moksha.
Yes, absolutely.
Your journey can eventually lead you to moksha.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, when you have come from America, I believe you are from US.
Yes.
So, and in search of God, you found Mother Ganga as your own mother. In such a turbulent time, when you see children of Ganges fighting each other in the name of religion, What's your take on it?
People fighting in the name of religion. It's a horrible tragedy. We see it all over the world, not just children of Mother Ganga. But what's interesting when you really look at it is, it's never actually about religion. The truth is, pretty much, no one actually cares how you worship. No one actually cares what name you use for God. The fighting is always over land, money, resources, power. If people of different religions are fighting, you can be sure somewhere there's going to be some power, some land. I mean, think about it. Let's just take where we are. Look at Kashmir. Okay? If suddenly well, no, that's a different country. Let's take a different place. Let's take a different option. That's too much of a political situation I won't get into right now. But let's take a different situation. Let's take the land of Israel, where it's one country, one land, different religions. If the Jews left Israel, or handed over 100% of the power of Israel, the resources of Israel, everything, to the Christians and the Muslims, do you really think that they would still be wanting to kill the Jews just for existing? Some might. It's been a long time of fighting. Some might. And similarly, if the Muslims or the Christians said, you know what, you people run it, and they left, they went to Norway, you really think they would chase them in Norway and kill them because of how they're praying? Of course not, right? It's not about how you're praying. We're fighting over this land. We're fighting over land. We're fighting over resources. We're fighting over power. Where there's no land, resources, or power, people are not killing each other over how they pray. This is where, you see in wars, people who have lived together side by side for generations and generations, suddenly they start fighting because in a war, it becomes about power. Who's going to be in charge? And so they start fighting. Who's going to have the power? Who's going to have control? So they fight. So what I would say is that religion very sadly gets hijacked and co-opted. And it's sad because it gives religion a bad name. But the reason that people use religion is, let's say that I was the head of a religion, and you were the head of another religion, and you and I were occupying this jopuri together. But I wanted it and you wanted it. Well, if I say to my people, you've got to kill him and all his people because I want this jopuri, very few people would be prepared to give up their lives so that I could be in charge of the jopuri. But if I say you have to kill him because they are slandering the name of God, they're going against God. God is telling you. And if you don't kill them, then God is going to be angry at you. They are defiling God. Well, then suddenly people get inspired. And especially if you tell them that God is going to be very happy with them if they fight. And even if they die, they're going to get everything they want. Because they're dying for a cause. Well, then you get people to fight. So religion gets co-opted for power. My followers don't know that I've just created this story around God and religion, when really it's all about, I just want this jhopri. If you say to me, chalo lay lo, hum ja rahe hain, मैं आपके पीछे पीछे भाग के नहीं आऊंगी to kill you because of how you worship, because you've taken God's name in vain. I'm going to be happy कि चलो jhopri mil gaye. So we have to be smart. And whenever we find ourselves getting pulled one way or another way by people telling us, oh, those people, othering, making either or, us and them, good and bad, you can be pretty sure that people who are telling you that are doing that because of a power struggle, not actually because of God. I mean, because ultimately God created all of us. If God wanted only one color of skin, we all would have only one color of skin. If God wanted only one race, one religion, one way of being, we'd be like that. One type of body, one size, one shape, one sexual orientation, we'd all be like that. To assume that there is something inherently wrong with people of a certain race or religion or color or size or shape or sexual orientation is to imply that somehow God made a mistake. And that's slander of God. Not somebody else worshiping in a different way, but me assuming that they are a mistake. That's taking God's name in vain.
Can I add a comment?
Yeah, in just a moment afterwards. Yes, sweetheart, in the back. Yes, you. Yes, you, in the back. The microphone is coming to you. And we'll take this as our last question tonight, and we'll start with yours, and there was another one tomorrow. Yours, tomorrow. Okay.
Atma Vandan. What is moksha?
Beautiful. Come here. Beautiful. You want to ask your question again?
What is moksha?
What is moksha? So, moksha means freedom. That's actually what the word means, freedom. Sadly, people talk about moksha as in something we get after we die. Right? People say, Voto. Yes. Finally, moksha milega. Right? Jeene ke baad moksha milega. Now, the problem with that is, what do you think about your body? I like mine. Do you like yours?
Yes.
Is your body a problem for you?
No.
Right? And this hand, is it a problem?
No.
What about your knee? Is it a problem?
No.
Your shoulder?
No.
No. Your elbow?
No.
Not a problem. So, the body's not the problem. If we only could get moksha after we die, that would imply that the problem was the body. Sharir se mukt, moksha. But the body is not the problem, we've just determined that, right? So, the question becomes then, what is the problem? The problem is the mind, right? So how do you feel right now?
I feel good.
You feel good, right? Peaceful?
Yes.
Happy?
Yes.
Wonderful, you look happy. Do you ever get angry?
No.
Never. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. That's okay, you're human. It happens. So when you get angry, then how do you feel? Do you feel happy?
No.
Do you feel peaceful?
No.
Okay. Do you ever find yourself sometimes feeling jealous? Like somebody in school or some friend or something. Seems like somebody else is getting something or doing something that you wish, God, why not me? That's not fair.
Yes, sometimes.
So when you feel jealous, do you feel happy?
No.
Do you feel peaceful?
No.
Okay. So we're beginning to understand what the problem is. The problem is the mind. My elbow's not the problem, my knee's not the problem, my shoulder's not the problem, my kidneys aren't the problem, my pancreas isn't the problem. My pancreas and kidneys and knees and elbows and shoulders are great. They're wonderful. The problem is my mind. When I have anger, then I'm not happy, I'm not peaceful. When I'm jealous, I'm not happy, I'm not peaceful. What about sometimes, do you ever sometimes hear a voice in your head that says, oh, you're so stupid?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah, that's a really not fun voice, is it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we've got to get you free of that voice. Because that voice is going to harm you. Because the voice tells you lies. But that voice keeps us from moksha. We all have it. The voice says, you're stupid, you're worthless, you're too old, or you're too young, or you're too fat, or you're too skinny, or you're this, or you're that. And that keeps us from being happy and peaceful. And so moksha is actually when we become free of the anger, of the jealousy, of the voices in our head that tell us what we are. Even the voices in our head that tell us that we are our bodies. Because we're not our bodies. And if we think we're our bodies, then there's always going to be some kind of struggle. Right? And if I think I'm my body, then there's always going to be somebody who's much more beautiful than I am. There's always going to be somebody who's richer than I am and more successful than I am and funnier than I am and smarter than I am. Always, right?
Yes.
I bet you have some friends who are smarter than you and some friends who are less smart than you, right?
Yes.
This is life. But if you think that you are your body, that you are just this beautiful being, and that you are your mind and you are your brain, then every time someone is smarter than you, or more successful, or more beautiful, you're going to feel badly inside. Because you think, I am this body, I am this story. And you're going to move through your whole life thinking, oh, I'm like this, or I'm like that. But moksha says, you are not your body. You are the divine inside of you. And the way you know that is, your body keeps changing. How old are you?
12.
12. Okay, so I would bet that at 12, you must be growing pretty quickly, right?
Yes.
So like you need new jeans, I would imagine, at least once a year.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe more. New shoes.
Yes.
Yeah, at least once a year, maybe more. Right? This jacket's not going to fit you next year. You'll give it to some 12-year-old then next year. So the body keeps changing. But you don't keep changing, right?
Yes.
You've been saying I for such a long time. Who is that I? It's not your feet, they keep growing. It's not your legs, they keep growing. Who's the I? That I inside of you that doesn't change, that isn't growing, that isn't getting fatter or skinnier or taller or shorter, that isn't dark or fair or smart or not smart. that I, that's the divine. That's the divine in you right here. Well, you feel it in the heart. It's everywhere. But you feel it in the heart. Right? You put your hands on your heart and you can feel it. You can feel that presence of the divine. Do it. Go like that. Just put your hands on your heart. Really push them in. Can you feel it? If you close your eyes. Can you feel something beautiful in your heart?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That's that presence of divinity in you. So moksha is when that becomes all of how you live. And there isn't the anger or the jealousy or these stupid voices in our head, because you know I'm not that. I have a body. It's a beautiful body. I love my body. I take care of my body. But I'm not my body. And that freedom is the freedom from the nonsense in your mind. And you can have that even while you're living. And then it's really nice, because then you get to use this beautiful body to see the sunset, to see the stars in the sky, to use your hands to help people, to use your brain to help people. You get to use your ears to listen to beautiful music, and you can smell beautiful flowers because you're not trapped in your own mind. So then the body becomes this wonderful gift that you have. And you don't wait to be free of the body because you love the body. But you keep working to become free of the games of the mind. Okay?
Yes.
So, every time you get angry, or you get jealous, or you hear that voice that says, you are stupid, or anything like that, what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands on your heart like this, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to just tell yourself, I am divine. God lives in me. And I want you to really, really, really feel that. Okay?
Yes.
Can you do that? It doesn't have to be right now. I know there's a whole crowd of people looking at you. But and also you're not angry or jealous or being told those things right now.
Yes.
But when you are, can you do that for me?
Yes.
Great. And then I want you to come back and tell me how it goes.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
What is your name?
Pari.
Putty. Beautiful. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. I know there were comments and questions we didn't have a chance to take tonight. We'll take them tomorrow. So much love to all of you. So much love to our family joining us from all over the world. And look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow.